Welcome everyone. Today we have another new episode and we are discussing about very important things because in the COVID situation everybody is tired, everybody has a lot of stress, someone get vaccine, someone still no, uh, and we need some recreation. So we have our panelist, Mr. Jamsid, Professor Donalds, as well as we have Madam Durga Das from India. So I want to start from Mr. Jamsid. How do you want to analyze today's topic? And what type of recreational activities you are taking? I know you are a chess champions and many chess champion and many interesting things you are taking right now.
Thank
Hi.
you, Sharif. Hello. And I love the topic of recreation because many times we're speaking of things that are stressful. And so recreation is a way to lower our stress. And this is an important part of being fully human and being able to do the best you can. You know, we all have certain limits to our abilities to do certain things, but if we're stressed, those limitations are heightened. And so we want to be calm when we approach any topic, any problem in the world, anything that we have to deal with. And we all have to deal with difficulties in our lives, no matter what country you're from, what language you speak. We all have difficulties. And how do we cope with them? We have coping mechanisms, but they're buried when we're stressed and our worst natures come out. So and recreation is one of these things that we can do to keep us calm, to help us face the difficulties that life throws in our direction, because the storms of life can rage all around us. If we can remain calm in the center, we're unaffected. And the recreations, of course, vary from country to country, from place to place, from person to person. But recreation, keeping the child inside you alive, is one of the most important things you can do. When you're facing a world pandemic such as we are now, then it's important for all of us to remain calm, because those that lose their heads around you should not affect you. You can keep your head and keep focused. And recreation can be physical, walk. I used to be a distance runner, then I became a jogger, and now I'm a walker. Well, get out in the open air and walk. You know, play golf. You get out on the fresh air, although they call it a good walk spoiled. But you get out in the fresh air walking on the fresh grass. So these are important activities. I play chess. Why? Because when I play chess, I have to concentrate. And I'm concentrating on the game. And so I am not thinking about the world's problems or my problems. Doctors' bills, hospital stays. These things don't matter when you're playing a game of chess. You're just concentrating on that and you're just taken away into another universe where these problems do not exist. So recreation is an important thing because you must start with yourself and then help those in your sphere of influence, your community, and then who knows where it stops. Instead of a virus spread, let your peace and serenity spread. Thank you for the show, Sharif.
Thank you, Professor Donalds. So I know that you have some interesting point for recreation.
Not. I hope I always hope what I say is interesting. You never know. I mean, it's interesting to me. I mean, you know, I talk to myself. I'm a wonderful audience. I listen. But that aside, I checked out last night and read up on recreation, and it's interesting that the definition of recreation is basically what you do when you're not working. So it's an interesting thing for me because I've always thought, gosh, I've never had to work in my life because I enjoy absolutely everything I've been lucky enough to be able to do. Like, this isn't work, you know, this is fun. And but given that what I just said, it's what you do when you're not working, it means that reading is recreation, playing chess is recreation, taking walks in the woods is recreation, volunteering to work at a soup kitchen is recreation. It's as James said, it does take your mind off of things, but you don't have to take your mind off of things. it turns out that just walking through nature for an hour causes the same physiological changes as taking a day of vacation. I think it might even be more, but there's been a couple of studies with different results, but the results are all extremely positive. So I have a place that I can walk not far from my house that's beautiful. I mean, it's got gigantic oak trees, and most of the madrone were killed by a disease, but there's still madrone in these groves. It's and I walk down this path until I come to this completely wooded path next to a creek till I come to these fields with vistas over the ocean. And the beauty of it is I never see anybody else. I mean, I don't hear car noises. Occasionally, a light plane will fly over, but I don't hear people talking. I don't hear car noises, nothing. And when I do it, it's like, I don't know, some sort of a magical drug that just that allows me to just be free somehow. And I can think about anything. I can think about the world problems, and I saw I solve them, because the way that you can solve the world problems is your own relationship to them. It's not a matter of the world's going to go on. There's going to be hurricanes and all kinds of things that people don't have any control over, besides all the weird things people do. But you can develop a relationship with them. And so recreation is well, I hope we would talk about it. I'd like everybody here to tell us what their forms of recreation are. See that guitar in back of me? That's one of my forms of recreation. I read. I read that half the people in America read one or more books a year, and I'm like, one book a year? I read 5 books a month, or more. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say right now. I want to hear from everybody else.
Yes, thank you, Mr. David. So you are young, you are energetic. So what's new you want to add for recreations?
Well, recreation. So basically, as we are part of nature, it is very important to go out, to enjoy yourself in nature, and also to get rooted. Because if you take off your shoes, the earth is negatively, how to say, poled, and we get a lot of energy from it, and we get rooted, and we get new ideas. We lose our stress, and yeah, we feel complete actually. So this is basically one of the big key points, which we should be aware of, and not to alienate ourselves from nature, but to take the responsibility, and to see also that we are part of it, and that we need it for full physiology of ourselves. And this is I think the biggest part. Also to enjoy the nature, not to say I have to go now, I have to recreate myself, I have to lose some stress, but just do it, and then a lot of problems will be solved on its own. um of course, it can take many parts. Not only outdoor recreation is one part. It's like you can also enjoy yourself by playing games, so like physical recreation, so like playing tennis, or like driving a bike, or going swimming, or I'm also going rock climbing. This is also part, but this is like all outdoor recreation, I see, or outdoor activities. Another thing which was just mentioned by Donald, of course, music. Music can relax yourself, um, playing music, but also like going to a theater or opera. It will relax a lot. and other stuff like visual arts, like painting. If you're more the creative person, can also relax yourself. And yeah, there are different types, different hobbies which can relax yourself. But for me, the most or the biggest point is like outdoor recreation. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We have our Madam Durga Das, and I think she is also champion cricketer. So from India. So she has a lot of things. I think she may share with us. So what's going on inside India and how you share your experience as a cricketer. So what we can do for recreation? What is your advice?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I did play cricket in India and up to the Indian level till I was 20, and then I captained the U.S. team for many years till 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I played my last tour in South Africa with the U.S. With the Americas team. So yeah, I've been playing cricket for now 40 odd years, 42 years maybe, and I continue to play some cricket now, but not. I don't play at the international level anymore. It's now time to let the youngsters take it up. So, but I do play some cricket because once it's in your life, you just can't seem to let it go. You give me a bat, I'll hit a ball, right? It's as simple as
Mhm.
that. So, I do play one tournament a year with the men. I'm part of the Rotary Club in District 3232 here in India, and the incoming president this year. And we have something called the Paul Harris Cricket Tournament, where we have like the IPL format. We have 12 teams with 20 players each. And of course, we
Mhm.
play only 11 a time on the field, but we have a 20-player team. And there are 239 men and me. So
Wow.
it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a lot of fun. You would think the odds are stacked in my favor, but unfortunately, I'm still single. But I do have a lot of fun playing with them. So that's a tournament I do once a year for the last 3 years since I stopped international competitive cricket. But I also I played the amateur golf circuit for many years in my youth. And for almost 7, 8 years, I played the international and the domestic amateur circuit. And so I continue to play some golf. I play 2, 3 tournaments a year, and I play my Wednesday matches with the women here in Chennai. And when I travel, I do try to sneak in a game of golf here and there, always for a few bucks or a drink at the bar. But it has to be competitive. It's just part of my nature, right? So if someone says no mulligan, I say no. Well, put the drink down and you can take the mulligan. Well, otherwise, no. So um, yeah, so a little bit of golf through the year, and then I do Scottish dancing on Mondays. So it's interesting why Scottish dancing, because we have the Scots living in India. When they came, when the British were here, and some of them stayed back, and they were very prevalent in the leather industry. First to begin with in Calcutta, and then they moved south to Tamil Nadu, which is very big in leather exports. We're big in leather, big in garments, big in manufacturing, so quite a few of those. But anyway, they moved to Chennai. And one of the things they said is, well, how do we Scots get together and meet and mingle as families? Because we're so few and far between. And they said, let's pick a day and let's do dancing. And they picked a Monday because they figured everyone would be busy on the weekend with the families and otherwise busy during the week. So they picked a Monday, and then they started inviting some of the local Indians, who are in their circle of friends. And over time, and it's been going on now for 50, 60 years. So we meet every Monday at somebody's home. We're a combination of expatriates, Indians, consul, embassy people, and we dance maybe 7, 8 numbers of Scottish dancing. And then, of course, with the Scottish dancing, you do expect a little bit of alcohol and food. So it's a bit of a social event. But that's on Monday nights. And then I have my Rotary meeting twice a month. And I have my board meeting for the Rotary once a month or twice a month. I don't know if I forget now. And then the projects that we do because of Rotary, I'm very connected to implementing solutions through our Rotary Club wherever we go. And with COVID, and well, first of all, my business of water takes me to implementing solutions all over the country through CSR and other charitable organizations. And now, because of COVID, there's so much more that we're doing. So that kind of takes me out as well. So, from the point of recreation, I think recreation needs to be mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and professional. You have to get a combination of all of that in some form or fashion to be a complete person and to have a balanced life. So, physical, I told you, I play, I dance, I do what I do. Um, Spiritual, I meditate. And when I say meditate, I don't believe in sitting cross-legged and chanting some mantra. It's each to their own. You can stare at a candle for all I care. Or you can focus on a word that called pizza and say that and focus on pizza if that's what makes you come to a certain quiet space. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of getting into a quiet zone for yourself, right? A time when your mind is quiet and silent and you're able to absorb um, energies that you're not usually open to absorbing. And so meditation is for me spiritual recreation. I do it twice a day when I wake up and I sleep, and anytime in between when I feel disturbed. And I can just zone in, zone out on call, thankfully, since I've done it for most of my life. I find it a simple way to disconnect. Professionally, one would ask, why? How could you have recreation in professional life? Well, if you can't do what you're enjoying, we shouldn't be doing it. So for me, my work is fun. It's my recreation. I enjoy what I do. I can't wait to get out of bed and figure out what I'm going to do today. What am I going to call? What solutions am I going to do? Right? How am I going to fight this challenge? How am I going to find money? How am I going to everything about it? Everything about what I do about my business is fun. And for me, that's recreation. Because if it isn't fun, I don't want to be doing it. It's just going to spoil the rest of my life. So it's what's the point? It's not just about money. It has to be interesting enough for me to be motivated and to put a smile on my face. So professional recreation for me, I think it's important, and it's something I try to tell most entrepreneurs that I mentor. If you're in it because of the money, get out of it like in a rush. If you're in it because you're having fun, the money will follow if it's must. Right? It's just the way it is. And if you don't get that right in the beginning, you're never going to get it at all. So professional recreation is, for me, a very important component of that piece of recreation in my life. And I don't want to take up too much time, but of course, you all know what emotional recreation is. It's about, being amongst loved ones, friends, feeling a sense of confidence, compatibility, happiness, joy, all the things that come from, being amongst your pets, maybe your dogs, cats, beavers, iguanas, whatever it is that makes you smile, right? That's emotional connect. That's recreation emotionally. And what other kind of recreation did I mention? I mentioned physical, I mentioned emotional, I mentioned spiritual, I mentioned professional. Is there anything else that I mentioned? I forget. But if I remember, I'll tell you. But for me, like I said, recreation is a whole, holistic, comprehensive, complete way of life. It's just not about playing a game.
Thank you. Mr. Markley, so what's your strategy for recreations, and what point of view you want to share with us? There are many questions from audience. I will come, but before that, I want to know from you.
I was actually going to address one of those questions from the audience and everything because I'd actually been watching as the lady was talking and everything. But definitely there is some ways that I try to get in my recreation, whether that's going for a walk. That's generally what I do most of the time, is going for a recreational walk. And that's what I mostly do for recreation these days and times. Way back when I was in high school, I attempted to run track. I was the Charlie Brown of my track team. Definitely was not all that good in the sport, but I was a good recruiter. So the coach loved me for that reason way back when, some 45 odd years ago and everything, because they knew that I would recruit a team that would win. So, like I said, I definitely had that ability to recruit good folks and would go ahead and go through the training and the process of running and all of that, but definitely was not a good runner and definitely never won a race in my entire high school track career. But it was still fun and enjoyed the activity. Also, I used to enjoy going bicycling and playing tennis and a few other recreational sports that I want to get back into at some point or another, including even attempting to do volleyball and things along those lines, and even a pickup game of basketball here and there. Still would do some recreational games, because sometimes games can also be a form of recreation, whether that's a video game or whether that's some of the things that I like to do to test my brains and everything, because there are various word challenges that I try to take part in on a regular basis, and that can be a form of recreation as well. And I used to love picking up the paper and getting the cryptic quotes, because the recreation can also be recreation of the mind. So that's something that I like to do. And of course, as many of you know, been involved in the arts for a number of years. So have friends that are singers and dancers and actors, and will sometimes even dabble into those fields myself. As a matter of fact, some friends of mine do an event that is a international event called Daybreakers, and Daybreakers is the dancers from around the country and all of that, and they use Zoom right now for the dance. And even though they're going to have their first IRL, standing for in real life, event there in New York at the William Vale, which is a luxury hotel, on a week from tomorrow. So it'll be on the 12th, if I remember correctly. But folks have been definitely even using their outlets as a form of recreation. They were using it doing a combination of just dancing and mindfulness practices like yoga and a number of other things, even during the pandemic. So you would find folks that would be getting on these calls from all over the globe, from places like India, places like Australia, definitely throughout the United States, Canada, and a variety of other places. So it'd be thousands, if not tens of thousands of people on these Zoom calls and just having a good time trying to use this dance therapy, is what I almost called it, in order to go through what we were going through with the pandemic and all of that. But that question I was going to get to is, somebody had asked to the importance of recreation to the elderly, and I can tell you that it is very important. My dad is in his early 80s and still is very active as a bicyclist, and he uses that time to actually use it as reflective time and just to get out and get on his bicycle or do other things. It might be walks, it might be going to watch my nephews, his grandkids, play his soccer and things of that nature. So he's one of the most active early 80-year-old men that I know and all of that. And that's actually part of what keeps him useful, because a lot of folks will say that he has a very useful demeanor, a useful spirit, and all of that. And I'm pretty sure that it's the exercise that has helped him with that. And I remember that he was active as an athlete for a long time. He was a tennis player in college, and he had actually played tennis and done other things. And then at some point in his life, I want to say maybe in his midlife part and everything, he had a serious back injury, and they got him into swimming. And he's still much active in swimming, because a lot of times swimming can help in that therapy. So, like I said, he went and started doing the swimming because it was a form of therapy in terms of like recovery for that injury and everything. And he still does it to this day, going to our local Y and being an active swimmer. So definitely, I think that recreation is very important for all of us, and we need to spend some time to give that recreation. And like folks have said, it can be in a variety of ways. It might be something that is feeding your spirit in that sense of spirituality, definitely feeding your sense of good health and all of that in the sense of the physicality, and also it's just good mental well-being. So sometimes if I'm having a rough day or a hard day, just going on a walk, and there's a area near me just got a pond around it, and the pond has ducks and of course other things that are around there as well. And sometimes just watching the people as well as going on the walk that's around this pond, like the track that's around this pond, will help me relax and calm myself down if there's some stress or stressors. And of course, with COVID, we're all are having some form of stress or another. So just having that relaxing, calming period is a good thing. And that's what I find is very much of a needed thing within recreation, whether you're 8 to 80, as a friend of mine likes to quote it when they're talking about their dating life. So it doesn't matter whether you're 8 to 80. A lot of times, recreation is something that is very much a necessity.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. There is a question I want to ask it, Mr. David. So, what recreation activities can be best during this stressful situation? Thank you, Noor Fazrin, for this question. Mr. David.
Well, the thing is like I can also say, is like I had a positive PCR test. And I also say it in the words of the Americans, I'm also a corona survivor, but
Mhm.
without any symptoms.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what I did in this 10-day lockdown in my apartment, my girlfriend was so nice to have a fitness program.
Mhm.
So every day we were doing actually like half an hour, 1 hour, like a fitness challenge on the rooftop terrace, and this was quite nice to do this, and also brought us over this 10-day shutdown, being locked in the apartment. And now is like basically what I also do is all the time every morning, like either do this workout for half an hour or go like half an hour jogging. And this really helps me over the day without having a coffee or something. Like I'm as a project manager, I have like meetings ongoing from like 7 till I don't know 8. And also working till I don't know midnight something, and this really helps me over the day and keeps me also fit. Of course, a big thing is also that you need to love your job or what you're doing, basically. But as I already pointed out, a big thing, a big recreational factor is like going out in the nature and being part with the nature. And this is like really, really a big thing. And personally, is like I'm really very often out when I have time during the weekend, like going rock climbing or bicycling with a mountain bike, or also playing table tennis or badminton. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Professor Donalds, and then Mr. James Witt. It will analyze or give this question answer. Why is the primary goal of recreational activities for the elderly compared to young children? Professor Donald. Thank you, Onika Shams, for your questions. Yeah, can you unmute? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm on it. Um, I think that it's important to realize that recreation can be personal. It's personal. I know. I'll rehash what David just said, which is that um, it's absolutely known that just walking for an hour in nature changes you. It just changes the physiology of your body, and that's something that's built into us. We're wired that way. And you talk about the idea of like being in nature, and that you need to do something, like you need to stop thinking about, but that's not the way it works. What'll happen is you'll go out there and you'll start your walk thinking, oh, I should have said this to this person, and oh no, this is going to go wrong, and blah blah blah, and all the things that people think. And all of a sudden, partway through, you'll say, oh wow, I never noticed a plant like that. What is it anyway? And all of a sudden you'll start noticing, if you can get to a place where it's quietness is like a sound. I was once at a lake in Finland where the quiet was so intense that it literally roared. I mean, I've never experienced anything like that before. It was just amazing. And so there's just all this stuff around you. The whole idea of mindfulness is a kind of meditation. I mean, mindfulness meditation is a big business here in California. And all mindfulness is being present. And it's a form of meditation that you can do at any time. Just suddenly pay attention to your breathing, just comment on what there is around you and look at the things around you. And if you can find a way to look at them with some sort of joy, like saying, gosh, you know, this keyboard in front of me is so amazing because it allows me to communicate with all these wonderful people all over the world. And I mean, everything around you, you can look at in a way, in a positive way if you want to. But World of Work, what I think that if you can find a kind of recreation that allows you to interact with other people, it's extremely valuable for you. So when I play music, when I play guitar, that's a kind of meditation too, because the ideal thing is to be with a group of people, and there's a point that you can reach sometimes where you're not controlling yourself playing. You start listening to yourself as if you're listening to somebody else playing, and you know what everyone else that's playing with you is going to play too. You're just there and present. And when that happens, the music is really good. And the thing about playing music is, you know, if your goal is to fill concert halls when you start, you're probably going to wind up being miserable. But music changes your brain. If you look, they put electrodes on people's head, and listening to music lights up a huge portion of your brain more than anything else. And playing music lights up the rest of the part of the brain that isn't lit up when you listen to it. I mean, it literally just changes your brain. So anybody can learn to play to some degree and have fun and enjoy it. Anyone can. And so I really highly recommend that as a hobby because it's wonderful. But then the other thing I'm saying is I want to say is when I'm playing music, and this is just an example, the same thing can happen when you're playing soccer, even World of Warcraft, you wind up meeting different people because in part of World of Warcraft strategy is creating alliances with people and things like that. I get to meet people I wouldn't normally meet, completely different. We'll be sitting there playing, and one guy will be a carpenter, and one guy, I met the head of Software Oracle playing. I mean, that's more business related, but if I called Oracle and said, I'd like to meet the head of your software group, what do you think would happen? I mean, they politely tell me that he's busy, but yet I get to meet that person. I loved what Madame Dugudash said. As soon as she said the Paul Harris golf thing, I immediately knew who Paul Harris was. I have 3 Paul Harris awards or 4, something like that. The Rotary Club is an incredible organization. And our motto, or the motto of the Rotary Club, is service above self. That's what the Rotary Club is about. And anytime that you can join or become part of an organization that's helping other people, it takes your mind completely off of yourself. And I think that people make themselves the most miserable by thinking about themselves all the time. That's the way to make yourself miserable. And so there's opportunities, and I highly recommend opportunities where you meet people. Oh yeah, in our research, my research, that the actual academic research, we found that people with the most diverse social networks, and diverse means people that are different than you, that you wouldn't normally meet in the course of your life, not your family, not the people that you work with, not the people that you went to college with, whatever. The people with the most diverse social networks do the best in life. They live the longest. They're the healthiest. The benefits to it are myriad. And I'll just mention that when the Rotary Club started, they on purpose, Paul Harris's genius was that on purpose, they wouldn't let two people in the same profession in one club. So it built in diversity in the Rotary Club. And so you can build in diversity in your own life. I'll get back to the value of nature, but if you can find any sort of recreation that makes kids are a good way to meet diverse people. Get into parent groups. So anyway, that's would change your life and in incredibly positive ways. So I'd really recommend it.
Thank you. Mr. Jamsid.
Thank you, Sharif. I love what I'm hearing, and I think prayer and meditation must be mentioned. But whatever works for me may not work for you. So find out what works for you. Music, I can't emphasize that more strongly than Professor Donald and others have said that, it has the power to make people happy. But what are we talking about? We're talking about getting outside of ourselves somehow. And these recreational activities provide us from relief. What is that relief? It's freedom from the bondage of self, of being only self-oriented. And if you become free of the bondage of self, if you shed those shackles, you can experience joy. However you do it, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through meditation. And I don't care who you pray to, I don't care how you pray, I don't care how you meditate. I use the Hong Song method of meditation because that's what was taught to me. Well, maybe that's good for you too. Maybe not. Maybe you find your own way. And this is what we all have to do, is find what works for us. Because the experience of joy was something that I didn't always understand, But now I say to myself every morning, renounce and rejoice. Renounce the bondage of self. And all the things that can flow from that, including addiction, including unnecessary pain and suffering, just renounce that and rejoice in what you have. Rejoice in what has been given to you, what the gifts that we all have, the blessings that we all have. And when I get into this mode, and I do this every morning, I have my series of spiritual rituals that I do every morning and every evening. And this is because I do this every day because I can't take a day off. Because if the kind of person I am, if I take a day off, I easily take two. And before I know it, I'm on vacation and I'm not doing the spiritual work at all. So I have to do this every day. You might be different. Maybe you can do it once a week. It doesn't matter. You have to find what works for yourself. And this recreation that we talk about, it's taking us outside of ourselves and to our higher selves, the things we aspire to. And when we're creating art, we're creating music, we are outside of ourselves when we're really doing it well. And we are connected to others. This is, as he was explaining, if you're playing an instrument with others, you're connected as one. You feel that connection, and it's a joyful experience. And this can be made true in many different forms of recreational activity. Teamwork on a cricket field, whatever it is, you're working together as a team. When you're really clicking as one, you're connected. And it's a joyful experience. And this is relief from the bondage of self. Get out of ourselves. This is the true spiritual path that we all must walk, but we don't walk the same path. We must find our path and walk it. And we must do this, remind ourselves, at least me, I have to remind myself every day. And then, lo and behold, I can be creative. I can write books. I can get books published. But it doesn't matter if they're published or not. If I'm writing, it's a creative activity, a self-expression. And it's a wonderful activity. It's a joyful. It doesn't seem like work to me. But if I'm writing on deadline for someone else, that's work. That's stressful. I've done both, and I know the difference. So try to orient your life towards a combination of things that you must do to provide food and shelter, and the things that you love to do. And if you can find a balance, you will live a happy life. And this is what recreation does for us. If we forget about recreation and we're all work all the time, we will not know joy. So we must find a balance. We must do the things that are necessary and add into them the spice of life, which is variety, as was just experienced. Experience new things. Be open to new revelations. Don't be sure that you figured everything out and everyone has to do it your way or they're the enemy. No, just be open to new ideas, new concepts, new experiences, new people. It doesn't matter what language they speak, doesn't matter what country they're from, it doesn't matter what they look like. Tall, short, big, small, it doesn't matter. You're connecting to another living being. And if that's your focus, you will experience joy. And there's nothing that I could recommend more than a joyful life, a happy life. And it seems like there's insurmountable obstacles in front of us. There's a wall between me and happiness. Well, tear it down. And it's easy to say, hard to do, but if you're determined, if you do it, if that's your approach every day, you will get there. And if I can do it, anyone can.
Thank you, Madam Durgadas. And I think Mr. Markley has some issues. Yeah. Markley,
So,
yes. I think Markley want to add some point. Then I ask questions to Madam Durgadas. Markley, yes.
Yes. The point I was going to add, and this actually comes to something that Jim was saying and that everybody's been talking about. But, recreation is definitely something that is done in a variety of ways. And definitely we've been talking a lot about active recreation. And active recreation is that recreation that you are doing actively yourself, whether that's going for a walk, whether that's going for a jog, whether that's doing a number of other things. But I want the folks that are listening to also reflect and think about the ways that the mind can also be eased by what I call passive recreation. And that's like when you go out to a art gallery and enjoy some of the great artwork that is there and everything, and get to admire the amazing artists that are there. Some of them may be, internationally renowned artists like Picasso, but it might also be your local artists that you have not had a chance to check out their work and all of that. So whether it's a opening or whether it's just you going to the gallery when the galleries are open and actually reflecting on that. And I would say the same thing with movies, because a lot of times we can go into the movie theaters and have that passive recreation of just having a chance to go into a place that is make believe. Some of the movies are very serious and are full of real drama that is going on, whether it's a documentary or a real life drama and all of that. But then there are some that are totally in the world of make believe and fantasy, and that's a chance for us to escape this real world and this kind of thing that we're in, even in the middle of the pandemic. And I know folks that have been doing that. I think Netflix was having a real boon in their business because folks were finding this as a time to get away and go into that fantasy space while they were locked into their homes and all of that. And I've actually been involved, as Jim knows, and you do as well, in the music business. So, sometimes even those going to an open mic or going to, and they're even doing those now online sometimes. So going to an open mic or going to a competition. For many years, I was involved with the Road to the Apollo, where we would take winners to the world famous Apollo Theater, but we would travel around the state of North Carolina, and then we expanded it to other states as well. And then those winners would get to go to that iconic location. But just hearing these young people and even folks in their middle age and elderly ages as well expressing their musical gift, whether that was gospel, whether that was rap, whether that was R&B or rock or a number of other styles, or even in some cases dance and other things like comedy and all of that. So sometimes that passive recreation is great as well, because I'm here in Durham, North Carolina, and actually I think they started their first game today, but the Durham Bulls are actually away. But I know that when they come back home, and that's that iconic baseball team, and they are going to be having games here in the area, limited audience and everything. But I definitely plan to go to a ball game. And part of that is what Jen was talking about. You get to see folks that are there for a common goal, which is rooting against whatever the other team is and all of that. And definitely if you're a Bulls fan, and definitely if you're on the other side, you're rooting against us. But there's that very much of a common goal of what's going on, and I'm sure that Madam can talk about that even with her cricket competitions and all of that. But definitely, you're in there in that common goal. But as my friend Zach says, whether it's music or whether it's sports, a lot of times that's where we really don't care about any divide at all, because a lot of times music is a unifying force. I mean, if you're sitting there listening to an iconic musician that's out there, if you're listening to Stevie Wonder, or if you're listening to even something in the rock field like Kiss or Buddy Guy or somebody like that, do you really care that that person next to you is black or white, gay or straight, or what their gender is? No, you're really just focused on the fact that you're listening to these amazing musicians do this amazing music and everything. And that's why it's such a unifying force. And I would argue the same with sports. And maybe the slight difference being that you're unified in your disdain of one team or another, but that might be the one slight difference and everything. But other than that, you don't really care that the person next to you is a police officer or if they're African American or not. You just want to see that your team is the winning team and all of that. So definitely that's what I meant when I said that passive recreation can also be an amazing thing as well.
Mhm. Thank you, Madam Durgadash. Yes. Alea Ahmed, thank you for your question. How does recreation contribute to human happiness, and how a person can entertain themselves in this situation? I think she want to mention this COVID-19 situations, even if you want to give some practice or anything for our audience.
Well, it's both a difficult and easy question if you ask me, because I think when COVID first came upon us, everyone thought, oh my God, this is going to last for a month or two and I'm on a break. Cool. My company is forced to give me this break and I'm going to have fun. And they have to pay me for it. Thank God for that. Right? And so everybody found ways to have fun till they realized this wasn't going to go away in a hurry. And then it just became monotonous. And monotony then led to boredom. Boredom then led to a lot of, what can I say, analysis, psychoanalysis, over-analysis of all kinds, because when you start having to be in a quiet place, most people aren't used to it. Then their minds become monkeys, and then the monkeys start talking and acting up, and then they start losing their mind. And that's when all the problems start, right? So I think people tried many ways of entertaining themselves to get out of that monkey mind zone, whether it was forced time with their wives or children or their husbands, if that's the case, or their other half, whoever it was. And people went on, like you said, people who never exercised started walking ferociously on their rooftop terraces, right? But the question of how does one create a recreation, or what kind of recreation does one adopt during such times? I think the simple answer should be anything that can get your mind to be calm, whatever that form is. Music, sport, being with loved ones, cooking, feeding your family, taking a nap, playing with your dog. It doesn't really matter. How do you silence yourself? How do you silence the monkey mind? How do you silence the anxiety that courses through you when you're in an uncomfortable place? In Indian practices, we have something called vipassana. And since that some of the topic was going on a philosophical note, I'll share this with you. Vipassana is a period of time, and you can do it for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, where you're completely isolated from everything and everybody. You are not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to be audible, literally, right? No contact with any other human being, no contact with any being, living or
Mhm.
otherwise. You're mostly in a quiet place, maybe a cottage or a room provided for you in nature, somewhere on a hillside. You can do Vipassana in the Los Gatos Santa Cruz Mountains. You can do Vipassana in different parts of the US. You can do Vipassana anywhere, lots of places in India. But usually Vipassana is done with a very good teacher, because it can be a frightening place to get to. When you are in that silent space with a complete disconnect to everything that you've been used to, you can go mad, literally. And it takes a very strong heart and a very strong mind to learn to accept that silence. And the silence of the mind, chattering of the mind becomes silent. Our connection with the world and the constant chattering we do becomes silent. The noises we hear all the time become silent. And in silence, it can be initially a very frightening experience. And then it can become an experience that will take you to another place, like Donald said, a little bit of a walk in nature, where and then he was in Iceland, is what I think he mentioned, where the silence was deafening, right? And once you start to accept that silence, it creates a different personality inside you, a person that can handle so many things in a far better place. So COVID, in a manner of speaking, put many people in a forced vipassana in many forms of manner. And they were forced to reckon with so many things that they never used to, because we're used to running away from things. We run away from home, we run away from our family, we run away from our spouses, we run away from work. We just run away all that. If it gets uncomfortable, we run to the next thing. We're constantly running like mice in a box, right? We just can't stay silent in one place and be quiet and enjoy it for what it is, or accept it for what it is. And so we were forced with COVID. Families of 4, 6 were cramped in a little one-bedroom apartment and had to learn to live with themselves for months on end because of the curfew and the blocks, and you just can't get out. So I think a number of people learned to distract themselves through playing games, maybe card games, maybe music. So many people I saw turn to creating music blogs or vlogs, or people started doing online humor. Everyone became a comedian. Everyone tried something or the other just to break from the fear of being forced to be in the situation which they were not comfortable with, right? So I think people found methods of recreation that we can't teach. It's each to his own, like James said. Everybody did something to fight the fear. But if you ask me what one should do, or what I would do, or what I have done in moments of stress, and now there have been many such moments in my life, both the moments when I've asked for it and moments I didn't ask for it. The moments I've asked for always have been through competitive sports. I asked for that challenge. I went into this field wanting that challenge. So obviously I put myself in a position of stress. But I don't look at stress as a negative thing. It was a positive thing that I wanted to embrace. It was a challenge that I wanted to embrace. And so it opened every pore of my being, my brain, my body to push myself to the next level, right? And then there are moments of stress that I didn't ask for. They just happened in my life because that's just how life is. It's just those challenging times that come and go. But fortunately for me, because of my 40 odd years of competitive sport, I've taken every moment of challenge in my life like a game. So I say, well, okay, this is a game now. How do we play this game? And how do we want to win this game? Or how do we try to win this game? And so the minute I approached it as a game, it didn't seem so terrible anymore. It didn't seem so difficult anymore. And I found methods and answers to combat it, to deal with it, and to overcome it. And that's because I took the approach of treating it like a game. It's a method I've used all my life. When somebody bothers me and irritates me or is trying to aggravate me, I suddenly look at them like they're little puppies or they're little cats or kittens. And I look at them and say, oh, how sweet. Or I look at them like little babies who sometimes just screaming and running around. And then I suddenly stop being angry because, well, what can you do with a baby that's running around and screaming? What can you do with a puppy that's little barking? Or what can you do with a kitten that's, trying to scratch your leg off? What can you do? You're not going to beat it, right? It's a little thing. And the minute I put that picture on that person, I just removed myself from that equation. I kind of moved myself into another level of dealing with that situation or that person. And so that's the approach I've always used. So with challenges like COVID, I looked at it as one more game. This is a game I have to play. Well, it's an extended, long game. It's more. It's more. People tell me 5 days cricket is boring. Well, 2 years COVID is terribly boring, right? But hey, it's a game that we have to get past. So I'm not trying to be flippant about it. It is a time where people have lost lives and people have suffered and people are going through pain and people have lost jobs. But if for a moment, if you can appreciate where I'm coming from and look at it from a perspective of just a game, in Hindu philosophy, Maya, it's just a game. What do? You want to play the game, stay here and have fun and figure a way out of it, or get consumed by it and you'll lose yourself in the process. So that's the way Indian philosophy or spirituality, and I don't think it's actually Indian. I think it's all kinds of philosophy, Eastern, Western, everybody. Donald Walsh. I think he speaks similarly. What is it? Talking to God, or Conversations with God was his book, right? So yeah, I mean, it's in all philosophies to kind of distance yourself and observe. And observation obviously puts you in a position to deal with difficult situations far better than being in the eye of the storm and surrounded by chaos. So that's what I would recommend. That's what I've been doing. And I think recreation, by definition, is what you do outside of work in your leisure time. But like I said, one must find in today's fast-paced world, you must learn to enjoy work as recreation too. Otherwise, you're going to get burnt out.
Thank you, Mr. Markley. Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add one of the things that I found very fascinating during this whole COVID period and everything was the amount of folks coming back to even kind of what Madam was talking about that started using recreation as a means in order to find relief from the madness of what was going on with COVID, because we did see a number of folks that developed new hobbies or got back into old hobbies. I know that there are a lot of folks that when families were tied together, they would use that in order to bring back game nights and things of that nature because they were all there in the house. And sometimes the kids were needing to find ways to stay occupied. So they would, go out and get board games. They'd go and get even card games and things of that nature. And it was their opportunity to do that, to actually find it as a bonding tool to keep them all together in doing these stressful times, but also just as a means of recreation and a means of staying, as the madam was saying earlier, as staying as sane as we could during this madness that was going on in the world. I mean, I've got a dear friend that's in the same apartment complex as I am, and they're actually now working on their second garden because they had an amazing garden back in the spring, and they're now working on their second garden that included everything from practical things that are definitely needed for food and things of that nature. So they were growing tomatoes and cucumbers and things that they could definitely use in their recipes and in their own food and everything. But then they were also growing things just for the beauty of it. Like I know they had this amazing sunflower plant that went up to the next apartment level. So like I said, they're on the bottom level and this plant grew all the way up to the top and everything. And I think they may be trying to grow another one as well. But I know the last one back in spring of 2020 was truly amazing. And sometimes just walking by it and looking at it was just beautiful and would calm you down and all of that. And then another friend was gotten into canning. They were always into canning, but they did canning of all sorts. So they were definitely going out there getting things and using this opportunity to get back into their canning business or their canning hobby, I should say. But definitely those are some of the things. And as several folks talked about, folks even use it sometimes to get into careers that they hadn't even thought about. I mean, one of the words that I heard used in the last 18 months, probably more than any time in its history, and it's a very common word, was how many times have we heard people talking about the fact that they went pivoted, meaning that they pivoted in their career and all of that, because definitely this is a chance to reflect. And as you were reflecting, then you would go over there and you'd be like, well, I thought I wanted to be a author and I never had the time to be an author. So then they would pivot and maybe write a book or write a play. So a lot of folks were using this as a time to do career pivots.
Thank you. This is really nice discussion. I think that our audience really enjoyed today's session. So We will arrange more session like this in the future. I just want to add some point, because we are looking for different kind of volunteer, those who can help us to develop our summit with World Talent Economy Forum this month, 29th and 30th May. We have our summit in World Talent Economy Forums. So those who are interested, you can join as our as our partner, as our volunteers. Even though I request all of our speakers, please join in our forums, as well as especially plan for our summit. There will be format, very simple format, 12-minute presentation and 3-minute question answer from audience. Beside that, we are moving with our fundraising option, because we are trying to reach millions of people, because we have many students right now. So we want to reach with our content. We need your support. So those who want to support our initiative, we can support through Patreon account. And the last thing is that we also need more researcher, more writer. So if you want to do some scientific writing, so you can share with us. So thank you everyone for joining today's sessions. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. I want to start from Mr. James Eid, then Professor Donalds, then Madam Durgadas, and finally Mr. Markley. I request you for the concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharif. I really have enjoyed this show. I always learn something. I have to do a special shout out to Madame Darsh, who talked about making them into little puppies, because when someone is aggravating me, I think of them as a pug, which is a breed of dog, which is very small and very ferocious. And the little pug will come up and challenge you, and you snarl and growl. And it's just amusing. You think they're adorable. And so when you can change your perspective, and this is what we're talking about, change your perspective. Hocus pocus, change your focus. That was taught to me. It's just one of those things that you can do. Instead of engaging with someone who's irritating you, instead of reacting from your amygdala and reacting, you want to respond with the frontal lobes. And how do you do that? I can do it by thinking of them as a little pug snarling and growling and so ferocious, but it's adorable. You think of them as adorable, and all of a sudden the best you comes out. And the vibrations you send out to the pug, pretty soon this pug is rolling over and you're rubbing its belly, and then it's sitting on your lap. And it's amazing that the universe reflects back to you. If you are generating good vibrations, healing vibrations, it will reflect back to you. And you will see it manifest in the universe before your very eyes. And part of recreation is, how do you get out of yourself? How do you change your perspective? And yes, in chess, of course, it was competition. Of course, I voluntarily put myself into it. But there will be involuntary situations that we all must face, and they will stress us. And how do we respond to that stress? Do we respond with our amygdala, our primitive responses, fight, flight, those types of things, or to respond in a more evolved way, from using our frontal lobes, using our resources that have been given to us freely. We did not earn them. I did not. I did not deserve them. I didn't even know enough to ask for them. They were freely given to me. And when I get in touch with them, all of a sudden I'm my higher self. And I can remain calm while the storms of life rage all around me. And I'm not that special. Anyone can do this, but it does take some training. I couldn't meditate because I had the monkey mind. And so I asked someone to help me. And she said, when you think of the monkey, can you visualize a white cloud? And I said, yes. Visualize putting the monkey on the cloud and the cloud drifting away. And so about 100 clouds, 100 monkeys later, I got calm. So, I couldn't do it myself. Someone had to help us. So we're not in this alone. If you know how to do something, share it. If you don't know how to do something, find someone who does know, and they will share it with you, because we're all in this together. And I do believe that we can all be calm and make more clearer choices will become intuitively obvious to us. The right outcomes will manifest themselves if we take care of ourselves first. Take care of yourself and enjoy. Renounce all the things that you were told you needed, like a better job, a better car. All of these things are meaningless. They do not make you happy. They do not make you experience joy. If they do, it's transitory. It's very brief. You know, the internal calmness that you have, that's what you want. And then from you will vibrate to the universe, and your sphere of influence will change, and you will see it change. You will attract things to you that are like-minded, that are also calm. And the agitators will drift away. I call it addition by subtraction. You subtract the agitators out of your life and you add to it. So these are the things that we all have to work on, and I have to work on them every day because I'm stubborn and I have a very good power of forgetting. I can forget and get tense, and I can get agitated. Every day I have a moment of agitation, but I remind myself of what I really need to do, which is to remain calm. And then the answers will come. What you need to do next. Thanks again, Sharif. Great show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Professor Donald, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Well, I'm just amazed at what people have been saying. Some of them are exactly the kind of things I want to say. So I get to reinforce everybody. It's really funny that last time I was in New York, I realized to myself that I hadn't gone to any of the boroughs. I'd always stayed in Manhattan. So I decided I was going to go to different places that I'd never been to before, and one of them was Harlem. Well, rather than just go to Harlem and wander around, I decided to set a destination for myself, and that was the Apollo Theater. I wanted to it's so iconic. Since I'm really into jazz, I just wanted to see the icon and just be there. So, and for Madame Dugudash, my wife's favorite pastime is to go on silent retreats. And she's actually done that isolated meditation in the Santa Cruz Mountains at the Mount Madonna Center. Baba Haridas was her teacher. He's passed away now. And so I think that's kind of we're all very connected here. Madame Dugudash said another thing about being objective. And I think it's a key point, and it's something that James said is you're not your thoughts. Your thoughts aren't you. Your thoughts are, your brain is complicated and has many parts. It has memories, and it puts things together and then kind of presents them to you. And if you can do what James said, another technique is to imagine that a river with leaves floating down on it. And when you have a negative thought, you just take that negative thought and put it on a leaf and watch it flow down the river and flow away from you. That's something that you can do. And that's being objective. That's like stepping outside and realizing your thoughts. I mean, however you do it, imagine that you're watching a movie and this is what the characters are saying. As long as you remove yourself from them and realize that you're not your thoughts, you can become much more peaceful. On the other side, being mindful really, really helps you. So for an instance, usually when we eat our food, sometimes we'll be watching TV at the same time or doing something else. When you're eating your food, you take the time to just chew it and notice the texture and just feel the flavors. Like, how many flavors are there in a bite of food that you take? I mean, what are they? Can you give them names? Just be here now is incredibly important. And another thing that Madame Dugudash said, that's something that I've always done, is like, I'll have something really tedious I have to do. Like in computer programming, sometimes you have to do error checking. You have to go back through the code over and over again. You have to do all these things that are pretty boring. But if you make it I always find ways to make it into a game. And I figure, if I can do this and identify that, I challenge myself. Okay, this is like a puzzle. And then I'm sitting thinking to myself, people buy puzzle books. so that they can do puzzles to entertain themselves. And I have a job where I get to do puzzles all day long and I get paid for it. Oh, wow, I am so incredibly lucky. I mean, this is the greatest thing. And I want to close with one remark, something that I've always thought in my life ever since I heard it. It's a simple phrase. It's you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Durgadas, what's your concluding remarks?
What can I say after James and Donald? They always just blow my breath away. I can't say much. They have so much experience and insight that I always leave. And it's not necessarily a topic that's so philosophical and kind of making us think a little differently. And it's not just about business and life and supply chain and what have you. But in every conversation with both of them around, I always found a way for me to think differently. And for that, I thank you, James and David. And for please, it's been the 5th time or so that you've seen me on this program. So can you please just call me Didi or Durga and just drop the madam? Seriously, please. Didi is good. May everyone calls me Didi or Durga if that suits you better, whatever works for you. But please drop the madam. All right, my concluding remarks. I just want to talk about your topic, recreation. Like I said, recreation, the Oxford explanation is what you do in your leisure time away from work. I would rather look at recreation as 2 words: recreate. Recreate everything in your life. Recreate the way you see things. Recreate the way you want to spend your life. Recreate your connections with your family, your friends. Recreate your connection with nature. Recreate the way you think about things. Recreate the way you judge things or should not judge things. I think if we take that moment to recreate, and I think I mentioned this, I don't know if it was in your talk, Sharif, or some other's talk, but I said COVID was not, people were talking about a post-COVID time, and I was saying, think of it as a time where you've been granted the gift of starting from zero without losing anything. And all the things you would do differently, and all the things you would speak differently, or all the people you would connect to differently, and all the ways you will learn to live and enjoy every moment of your life. And if you look at it that way, then you're going to think of this as a blessing more than it is the pain that we've all seen. So I would take your topic of recreation and call it recreation. And if we can approach it from that point of view, well, you are only going to be limited by how you will think about recreating your life. No one can tell you how and what all to do, but you will be only limited by yourself and your ability to imagine. So that's what I'd like to conclude with.
Thank you, Didi. So thank you. It's really, really great session for us. So, Mr. Markley, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Yeah, as Dee was saying, and see, I use the correct name since she's told us that that's what she wants to be called and everything. As Dee was saying, there have been so many powerful remarks, including those made by Dee, made by Donald, and made by James as well. But I did want to reiterate some of them and just kind of like give some other thoughts as well. And part of that is that I think that we've all talked about the fact that recreation is about reimagining, definitely about using our imagination, and also about observation. I don't care what you're doing in recreation, whether you're doing a game or whether you're doing a sporting event or whether you're just observing some art or listening to some great music. It's all about observation, and a lot of times that's the best part of recreation, is it's a chance to observe even times things that we should be observing regularly. Like I said, I know that sometimes when I go for a walk, I will notice some of the insects are out there, like whether it's a pretty butterfly or whether it's a grasshopper or something else, or maybe if I'm over there by a pond or a garden, I'll notice the vibrant colors of the robin or some of the other things that are out there that a lot of times we're in such a rush kind of society that we don't spend enough time paying attention to. So this is a time of recreation to observe the beauty. And I would even argue observe the beauty of the people that are in your inner circle. There's a reason that they are your friends. If you've got a spouse or something like that, there's a reason that you fell in love with that person. And I believe that this is a time for you to observe the beauty of that person that is your other half, as well as your friend circle as well, because even though we didn't touch on it, that is a form of recreation as well, because that's sometimes that we also do in terms of our relationships, that is a recreational activity to some degree as well. But a lot of times we don't even spend enough time observing these people that are in our lives and why we have them in our lives, and we need to do that as well. I mean, there's a reason that Jim is with his other half and everything, that is his partner in crime, as a friend of mine calls it in his life. So my friend Dean oftentimes talks about his wife and his partner in crime, and I know that that's the same thing with Jim and his wife. And I imagine those others that have spouses, that's their situation as well. And if you don't have, if you're in the single category, as I definitely am, and yes, I did catch that remark that Dee Dee made as well about her cricket team. So apparently she's in that club also. So if you're in that club, we just have to do it with our friends and all of that. So definitely, that's just something that we have to do also. But one of the other things I was going to add just in that last comment is, we've used this time to see a lot of people use it to find their tribes. And I've got a good friend of mine that does an event. As a matter of fact, one of his events will be tomorrow called Voice Your Vibes. And he does also shout out Saturdays. And that's my friend, Brian Shulman. And he gets people from all over the country, and they come and they basically do what we're doing here. They share the positivity that is in their life. They share the things that are going on in their life. And yes, I think that on the one that he does on Wednesday, or maybe it's the one on Saturday, he might have them talk about the cartoons that they remember or their favorite cereal or things of that nature. And then we also get a little bit of a dance groove going as well, because sometimes I think it's the Wednesday one, he'll put on a song that you select. And on Saturday, it's one that is kind of like a standard one, and you get to dance to that and everything. And I think they're going to start a lip sync competition as well. So I might be reaching out to Jim and seeing if Jim wants to tag team with me so that we can do a lip sync competition on Brian's event and all of that. So I may be reaching out to him to see if he wants to tag team with me on that, since that is starting up very soon. So definitely that's a great event that goes on, and it started during this whole COVID period. So Brian started doing it. He's got a team of folks that are doing amazing things in that regard, and they are from all over the globe and all of that. So that's kind of my concluding remarks. But last but certainly not least, Sharif, we're waiting for you to start the Malaysian Olympics. So we're waiting for you to invite us all over, since you've got all this business going on. So we need the Malaysian Olympics conducted by Sharif that'll feature all kinds of things. It's not going to be the standard Olympics of just regular sports, but it'll also be game sports, so that people like me and Jim can attend as well. So there will be cricket, there will also be chess, there will also be crypto code games and all of that. So since you got the school and you got everything else, we need
Yes,
the
definitely,
Olympics.
definitely. Yes, as a team, if we can work together, then we can arrange. Previously, I engaged with one. It's world largest competition, especially for the student world debating championship, and we arranged it in Chennai. 2013, we arranged it in Chennai. It's the largest around the world. Like 3,000 students from 400 different universities, they attend in the world debating championship.
Wow.
Sounds amazing.
I think he just froze on us. But yeah, I think I can speak for myself, but I think we're all in agreement. Sharif is doing a tremendous job bringing all these people together and on various topics. But every time I'm on his show, I'd learn something. Here he comes back.
Yep.
Sorry,
Likewise.
I think internet problem. So sorry. So definitely we will arrange some. Yes.
You went to arrange the Olympics, right?
I want to say
Yes. Definitely in the future.
I want to say one little tiny thing, which is I want to, both James and Durgadas said that they think of pugs Well, I know a lot of people were so upset by Donald Trump that they were absolutely like stressed to the max. But I imagine him as this little blue cartoon character with a shock of white hair who was always balling up his fists and jumping up and down. And as soon as I did that, it freed me from being upset.
Or the big balloons with the orange baby diapers, and it's like, yeah, that was
Either that, or you can
relief.
visualize him as the Tasmanian devil. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And of course, we all remember that cartoon character.
Exactly.
Big
So
baby.
anyway,
Thank you. It's really nice sessions, and I request everyone. The COVID situation is very not so good. Even Malaysian COVID also increased. Indian situations, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, I want to say not so good. I think South Asia need lot of support. India need lot of support. So the global audience, especially from around the world, those who observing World Talent Economy forums, this is the time we have to support, because India is a very big country. More than billions of people live there. So we need to help each other, and we need to provide our support those who need support in the COVID-19 situations. So thank you everyone for joining today's session.
Sharif, just really quickly along
Yes.
those same lines, and not to put a damper on this great recreational conversation and everything, but while America is doing well, I think we've got somewhere slightly under 50% vaccination, and they're hoping to get more of those and all of that. I still don't feel that we're totally out of the woods and all of that. So even here, we need to be diligent and all of that. I know that a lot of states are loosening up their restrictions and loosening up things, whether it's like don't have to wear the mask as much, or you don't have to do this or that. But I don't know about the rest of the panel, but I am still, while I am optimistic about the fact that we have turned the corner here in America, I also do see what's going on in India and other parts of the world. So it is what I call cautious optimism, because definitely I feel that we still need to be diligent in what we're doing in terms of the mask, in terms of washing our hands, and in terms of everything else. So like I said, while I'm hopeful of the vaccination, I also just recently got a Facebook message from a friend that got both doses, and they and their kids have come down with COVID. So even though they are hopefully on their way to recovery and all of that, it did not stop it. And it might have been already that the symptoms were in their body at the time that they took the vaccination. So there are various things that could have been going on even in their situation. And it does seem like they are on the road to recovery. But that's just a word of caution to let folks know that we still need to be diligent in this, what's going on, and definitely get out and enjoy the exercise, enjoy doing the things that we're talking about, whether that's inside recreation or outside recreation. But we've gone through a year, and we've got almost a half a year, and I would urge folks to still be, like I said several times, vigilant in what we're doing, because we still need to be vigilant even in this period.
Yes, thank you. This is really great session for us. I think people learn a lot from today's session. Share our content as much as possible. Subscribe our YouTube channels. So with your support, definitely we will arrange our future Olympic from Malaysia. So thank you, Markley, for the idea. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye. Assalamu alaikum. Yes.